Right up to the microphone we go as we continue another week here. This episode must be shorter. That got out of control there, but sometimes it's good to hit a wall, as we did on Twitter. Welcome back, Artist Journal, October 28th, 2024. Broadcasting from the pirate ship of the mind, deep in Berlin, Germany, in Friedrichshain. For those that know their Berlin, my name's Adrian Pocobelli. Welcome back. A nice early start here. I put a self-imposed limit, as I told myself, as I was getting ready for this show, of 10 comment tabs and 25 artworks. It didn't work out that way, but I think the ideal kept things where it's not going to be out of control here. And I am kind of putting a hard deadline in my mind of an hour here. So let's see how we do. Again, I hope you had a wonderful weekend. And here it is. Did you see this? Kanek Zapata. Let me make sure I'm pronouncing Kanek Zapata's name right. Kanek Zapata. Kanek Zapata. So image rendered on an automatic cellular... Image rendered with cellular automata is the translation here. I think it means using a cell phone, which wouldn't shock me. What I know about Kanek Zapata, I need to get Kanek Zapata on the space, actually, on a space, if that's possible. Just thinking out loud here. But what's interesting about Kanek Zapata, from my understanding, glitch artist since like the mid-20-teens, maybe 2015, maybe longer. And you see it in the whole, again, sometimes AI gets lumped into glitch, AI art, interestingly. I think we were hearing couple of people were mentioning that. I think Zapata was also mentioning that. I think I was commenting on that last show. And so Kanek Zapata, of course, if we bring up the object here before we go back to that work, you'll see we've been looking, if you get to the hour and 40-minute mark, you'll recognize some of these works we've been looking at. Very, very, very interesting AI art, I guess you would call it, but it's like, is it AI or is it glitch, right? Remember this odd pixelation here? You don't see diagonal pixelation that often, or particularly in an arc like this very often. And remember the word poems, writing poetry with computer. So we've been kind of looking, it's getting pretty darn interesting. It always has been. I've been looking at Kanek Zapata's work since the beginning, really, of this show. Super prolific. Is it all one of ones? Interesting kind of way of distributing their work. Just one of ones, from what I can tell. There's 864. I don't want to crash my computer here by loading them all up, but just to give you... Actually, you know what? Let's very quickly look at the oldest. Because in a sense, you'll see... I want to say you're going to see, like, even the color scheme, even back here, there's this kind of all-encompassing, kind of rainbow, right, color scheme. So I'm going to reach out in the next week or two to Kanek Zapata. It would be fabulous to have a space with them and just learn more about what they're doing. They've been around, and just a very interesting artist here. And so let's go back to what was posted on X. Because I'm finding this kind of stuff just unbelievably interesting, which is, it's kind of back to this textured digital art, this painterliness, right? And what do I mean, right? Let me zoom in a little bit here for you. So this is what I'm talking about. And I don't know, here's a huge question that I ask myself as we kind of investigate what is the modern artist today in 2024. What are the techniques that the artist of 2024 might utilize if we're almost to put together a kind of type, shall we say, for the sake of illustration and argument. And of course, there's a million ways to do it. But we have AI, a revolutionary new image composition machine, right? We have AI. We see it with RJ. Hey, I'm making paintings, right? Left, right, and center. We've seen it with, anybody that's ever done AI. We're going to see gorgeous works by Eiley. Oh, here's six works I just made that are fabulous, of these still lifes. And so what I wonder to myself here as we look at this, and I don't know, but only because of the history of Kanek Zapata do I think, oh, I wonder if this is actually sourced from AI first. It may not be. But what it looks like to me is some kind of, let's call it anime image, that has somehow been basically processed through a cell phone. I'm imagining an old cell phone, is what I'm thinking here, as we look at these kind of odd mix of triangles and pixels, right? And we've seen this kind of patterning before, right? And as you see here, so kind of, we're almost kind of to a certain degree to the Yuri J, the outlines of our lives, right? Make a whole bunch of outlines, fill with patterning of a certain kind or of technique of a certain kind. We've seen it with human kernel, right? And so the first thing I wonder, or one of the big questions, and I don't want to forget this, so I'll bring it up now, as we try and almost, as I'm kind of like imagining what it is to be an artist in 2024, one of the types that you could have is, are you bringing in AI as a compositional tool, and then you start processing things, right? And then you kind of, so you don't stop at the AI necessarily, you can, but another way is, well, maybe I want to comment more on the medium of digital. And if I want to comment more on the medium of digital, well, perhaps I'll run it through a cell phone, as seems to be happening here, right? So I don't know if this starts with AI. If I just saw this from an artist I'd never seen before, I wouldn't think AI. But because it's Kanek Zapata, who uses a ton of AI for years, you do start to wonder, like, is this an AI-sourced image? Perhaps not. But so that's kind of one side of it. Is one of these types, we could say, of a 2024 artist, someone that sources AI art and then starts to do stuff with it. We see it with Scamra, right? Not uncommon. And then with all these kind of different results. And with spectacular results. And we're kind of back to what I semi-loosely call painterliness, right? Like this kind of stuff, where even the pixels themselves are not square. Something, I delight in that, because what does it do? It starts, you can tell it is sourced from the digital, but that something is happening in the process that the squares, whether it's through, the processing, whether it's through enlarging too much, whatever the case may be, you see the pixelation, the geometry start to break down, right? And then you get this, whatever this is. And this is an eye. Like, what a spectacular eye. And I'm kind of back to the painterliness, right? Because what I see here is the same delight I get from a Basquiat, for example. Maybe even funner for me at this point because it's new and it's fresh, right? It's something I haven't seen a million times before. It's something for 2024. It's something I already am playing with pixels and look at what this person's doing with pixels, perhaps because I haven't seen anything quite like this before. Of course, we've seen many variations on this theme. Even some of my work, as we'll see, we'll see RJ, we'll see Scamra, we'll see a ton of people, right, playing with this, what we'd loosely call textures, his dribble waffle, right? But nevertheless, there's a lot to be said for this, and as we make this, I would argue, revolutionary jump from physical to digital, and it is revolutionary, and I keep going back to that story that I saw on YouTube, the video where it's the history of art in 25 minutes or something like this, and I highly, I've mentioned this before, I highly recommend you watch this, because then you think of what we're doing here, and you're going to the end of the video, and they're still in like abstract expressionism, or they stop around, pop art or something, right? Or maybe, postmodern. You know what they're calling it, by the way? I think we're going to see this. They're calling it ultra contemporary. We had this whole conversation on his contemporary art that I guess it is, because now they're calling it ultra contemporary. I just found that out. But all to say, when you watch that video, you realize how radical it is what we're doing here, I would argue, and just how radical the shift is from physical to digital. However, when we see what we're looking at right now on the screen, I would argue we are seeing the same kind of aesthetic appreciation, the same kind of aesthetic impulse, in the same kind of artistic impulse that we would find in a Warhol screen print, a Richard print such and such, that we'd find in your contemporary art museum that still has painting in it. Or we might even say painting from the last 100 years. Appreciating what is this? I would argue this is basically what we're looking at here, these little pixelations to big pixels, and then we're looking at the equivalent of brush strokes and appreciating those brush strokes. So as we have this kind of radical break, I think it's interesting to get these kind of bridging. We're seeing analogies here between the paintbrush and, rendered pixels, or however processed pixels, shall we say. I think there's, to me, I see brushwork here, or the same delight I'm taking in this eyebrow, this gorgeous eye, this, random, this textured face, shall we say, and is textured even the right word? It sure looks textured, doesn't it? This is not texture. Technically speaking, I would argue it's massive digital texture here. But technically speaking, this is flat, right? So what do we mean by texture, So not to go too long here. And look at this. And it's interesting how close you get. Look at the eye here and the color. Novel representation of an eye, I would argue, and aesthetically persuasive. This is quite, so it's quite interesting what I would argue we're seeing here, is because I think that same kind of aesthetic appreciation that we get from brushwork in 20th century painting, rendered anew with a new medium, kind of bridging over, and just to go one step further. Why do we care about brushwork? What appeals to us in the brushwork? And I would argue, what do you have in a brush, a brush that goes across the canvas? What do you have? You have an element of randomness contained in an organized impulse, shall we call it, or a stroke. And I would argue that is what this shares, which is, hey, I'm going to make an eyebrow, but there's all within this eyebrow, or I'm going to make an eye, I'm going to make a face, but within that face is all sorts of randomness, right? That is basically what they share on a, philosophical level. So I think that's why we kind of see them, I would argue we almost read them in a similar aesthetic way, is what I would argue is going on here in this stunning work. Not even minted. Just put on X, hey, look at what I did on I think that says image renderizada with automated cellular, whatever that means, right? And we have another, and to Kanek Zapata's credit, saying, hey, check out the eye, seeing what we're seeing here, going whoa, that's pretty cool. And final point on this, Murakit. Right? We have a huge contrast going on here, because this seems to look like some sort of manga, the comics or the anime, the movies, right? Japanese anime or Japanese comic, kind of has a bit of a manga look to it, doesn't it? And who does that remind you of, right? Murakit, another person using these kind of, digital textures, but using these this hard contrast between traditional illustration that is now being processed, in a digital way with massive textures, effects on effects. In Murakit's case, one imagines. So it's all just another interesting, and stuff like this. This is the equivalent of the paint drips, right? And here, and look, the pixels here on the mouth, just finally. The pixels on the mouth, these aren't perfect pixels here. As you see, there's a space, this randomness, but it's still controlled. right? Here, randomness. So it's brushwork, I would argue, from, let's call it even just like, how abstract can we get on this? From an information theory point of view. I mean, we're kind of talking, are we coining a new term here with 3 coffees in the system? Visual information theory. I mean, is this what we're starting to stumble upon here? Because from an information point of view, visual information, we are starting to see similar characteristics between a digital process like this and a brush. Interestingly, although one key difference, one's 2-dimensional, one's 3-dimensional, but it's almost like final point before we run. It's almost like you can still appreciate the texture of a physical artwork when you see it in a book. On a 2-dimensional surface, when I see a Warhol, there's still like, I don't see the texture, but I kind of still read the texture. If I see, again, something with a lot of beautiful brushwork, right? Even a Picasso, I don't necessarily, it's a different experience to see it in real life, and often it's a superior one. Nevertheless, though, I can still appreciate that brushwork from a 2-dimensional perspective. And we're kind of back to this visual, how am I processing this visual information? So, beautiful way to start here again. And then you go back to this work. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Here's the other image that Kanek Zapata was showing the close-up. And these interesting triangles, and using a cell phone, from just a purely conceptual level. Is that Mao? From just a purely conceptual level, a cell phone. And so we looked at Kanek Zapata. Good. So using a cell phone. Interesting. Okay, this ubiquitous device. Super interesting. Speaking of super interesting, NUV 1914, Wednesday. We have Tornado Rodriguez is going to be translating for NUV 1914. Of course, I follow Tornado. Come join Roon Toon. Spectacular artist here. I cannot wait to hear what NUV 1914 has to say. That is this Wednesday. You'll find it in my feed. So super exciting there. I wanted to post this for the record because sometimes, I'm glad I do this with the birthday works, because sometimes you go, how am I ever going to find those birthday works? Some of them are just put on Twitter that were done last year. There's 30 works done, it seemed like, whatever the number is. So here, I just want to make sure this is on the record, and it is fun. There is the myth, and I believe that's Myth's girlfriend, not sure, I assume. This is after we met after 30 seconds. I show up at this cafe in Buenos Aires. Santiago takes the picture. He's like, oh, let's get a picture. And boom. So totally awesome moment there. I look forward to going back. Big thank you to D, the letter D. Thank you, D, the letter D, for picking up Ray Dalio. So having fun here. Quite a small work in the sense of only 500 by 579. This might have concerned me in, 5 years ago. Now I delight in it, and just a very fun work here, playing with the processing and everything. A lot of kind of, how far can you push it? Enjoying the JPEGization, interestingly. And again, these non-square pixels, right? Again, playing with these pixels that have been kind of distorted, but then keeping real ones in there for contrast. Anyways, having a ton of fun. Big thank you to D, the letter D, for collecting 4 minutes after posting. That was wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Art for Space, indeed. So many wonderful topics we have here. So, only on YouTube. And again, we're already 20 minutes, but we're not doing bad here. Let's keep going. So thank you, everybody, for commenting. Really fun and inspiring to follow the evolution of the art happening in this space. And you're such a good guide, full of knowledge and enthusiasm. Thanks for putting these together, Pocobelli. My absolute pleasure. And thank you for commenting, Argurda. Human Boy, thank you as always for the feature in today's episode. So grateful for the time and energy you spend with us and the art. It never feels too long to watch, but I can only imagine how long it must take you to create. I only took an hour today. And always remain so thoughtful. Hope you find that balance that works best for you. Yeah, I am dancing here. It is an improvisation. Really appreciate, which makes it even nicer to hear the positive vibes. or the positive feedback, because you actually, who knows how you're going to dance today. Aw heck, or Joshua Sobel, this episode was the length of a movie. I loved it. So great to hear. I was embarrassed at how long this episode was at 1 hour and 46 minutes. So thank you for the comment there, Joshua Sobel. Always great to hear from you. PP Universal, thanks for the feature. You're absolutely welcome. Omizu Paints, another excellent episode, Mr. Pocobelli, even if it went longer than you expected. It's almost as if the more you focus on time, the longer the episode becomes. And no matter how long or short the episode ends up being, I'll continue to watch Artist Journal. Thank you for sharing this with us. Thank you for the comment. Because sometimes I do get concerned. Like, I think as I always say here, from a commercial point of view, I think this show should be 20 to 30 minutes, right? So it does kind of make you wonder. But I really appreciate that. Because it is kind of about just getting it right to a certain degree, as much as I do try and shorten it. K-Town Crypto King, great to hear from you. Stellar episode. 5140 Object needs to add a comment section. Right, so talking about probably Object as a social platform, needs to add a comment section to each art piece. I'm sure they've thought of that. And add view like counter and a tab for art owned. Right, so yeah. So interesting thoughts here from K-Town on developing the social side of things on Object. Darbles NFT, you rock, thank you. Great to hear from you, Cider. I used to come back to check the art, but now I'm also coming to check the discussions you bring. Amazing episode as always. Thank you for bringing my work as well. Just delightful to hear from you, Cider, an incredible artist here. Juran Lant, I'm totally fascinated by your journal. This was a really nice comment. I'm watching it now for about 2 weeks. I have to say your dedication and your seriousness to art and aesthetics is a pure pleasure to me as someone coming from an art school. This is music to my ears. I feel like making digital art provides so much freedom of expression and meaning, and your journal is really the proof of it. I was always interested in digital media and images in general. Until now, my artistic approach is more focused on creating drawings, paintings, collages, and so on, but it will change now. Thanks a lot. I am totally in. So just, I wouldn't say, put it this way. You say, I don't really get at all paid for this, but I do sell my art. So this helps sell my art, is basically the main monetization here. But this is kind of like, I don't want to be facetious and say this is why I make this show, but it's almost like that was the first thing that went through my head. When you get a comment like this, you just go who cares if I'm making money or not? If it's having that effect on people, I am just so glad to hear that. So thank you for the comment. And by all means, post your work in the community when you start making digital work, or if you already have some or whatever you're doing, to get it on the radar here, because wouldn't it be wonderful to have you on the show? Dylan, great to hear from you. Thank you, Pocobelli. Great to hear from you, Dylan. I think we have another work by Dylan this show. And PP Universal, there is something universal indeed from PP Universal. Talking about universal subject matter. That was a very interesting discussion. I almost titled the show Universal Subject Matter. But I kind of didn't want to lose the art for space thread, so to speak. So it's almost a way of reminding myself. Anyways, and a cool title too. So here, the duration of the video you tried to upload was too long after half an hour of this thing uploading on the Berlin internet. Then it told me, sorry, you're out of luck. That was at 5:30 p.m. My whole day gone with this show. So I have all the incentives in the world. Today's going fabulous. In terms of time. Let's keep it that way. Darbles, just subscribed on YouTube. Awesome. Salawaki, love this episode, Adrian. Thanks for including my work. Absolutely. Salawaki, those GLBs of these kind of scenarios, I just adore. I think they're really, and the color. Andre, just got the notification on my way home now. I'll enjoy your show later. Awesome. Always great to hear from you, Andre. Blue Alley. Oh no, been waiting all afternoon. The time for the smelling salts. Actually, it's probably way more stressful for you than anything else. Be happy to catch up with you on YouTube. All the best. Thanks for your work and dedication. We appreciate you. I totally appreciate that. And there's Blue. Excited for the show, and that excites me. So thank you. It wasn't a big deal. At this point, I am just happy it uploaded somewhere, right? Rural Idol, the perfect finale to triple vinyl magnum opus season. Good luck paring things down. Hilarious. Great to hear from you. This, Evelyn, great show, Adrian, but I think you're being a bit unfair to galleries. And I think you might be right, Evelyn, on that front. If the relationship between artist and gallery is healthy, they support the artist in many ways. Except for the obvious, like business partner and selling your work, they're usually better to write about an artist's work and put it in a historical context. Yeah, not all artists can write that well or express themselves. So in certain cases, I think that's true. It really does. It is a case by case. We are generalizing here. They're also better for, according to Evelyn Yo, promoting the artist, career advice, keep record of all your work, photograph. It really does depend on the gallery, doesn't it? And I don't want to rain on the parade entirely. I think there is a function for galleries and digital, but I think it's a different kind of relationship than the one where either your work is shown in the physical world or it's not. If you don't have a gallery, is almost what it comes down to. And of course, overgeneralizing here, you can go to little fairs where, but generally speaking, if you want to show it in what I'd loosely call, and again, loosely call a credible way, you kind of need a gallery. And in a sense, so they have a different function now. I think it's more of a like brand association, like, oh, this, let's say it's not gallery, a gallery that we've looked at a billion times on this show. Like, it's like, I think if you're a younger artist that's doing airbrush paintings, you want your work shown by it's not gallery, right? Like you just do, I would argue, right? And so I think that's the kind of relationship, say, in the digital world, that it goes, okay, they have such a great following, they have such a great aesthetic, they are pioneers, I would argue. So therefore, that's kind of what the digital can offer, rather than all of this kind of. But that's none of these things, which I'd argue is more kind of traditional physical gallery. Anyways, let's continue. They do all the things an artist don't want to do because the artists want to make work, not be on X all day. Yes, in some cases. They also give the artist a platform to try new work. Often the gallery is the first place to show the artist new body of work. Yeah, so this really depends. Because it can be the opposite too, as we were mentioning. Maybe the gallery doesn't like it, as you said, but if they like the artist, they might understand the artist's need to do these artworks to get to a new level of their practice. Yeah, so it's a mixed bag. I think that's totally fair. This said, I don't see them as super important in this space, but they are one of the few that can onboard people from the street, and I believe they can do that better than a screen on Times Square or in Shibuya. And definitely, I totally agree there. As I can talk to the person walking into the gallery, I guess artists here is more in need of personal promoters or agents, someone you can discuss with your works, who understand your art, promotes your work. I think there's a place for it, maybe. But I just don't put it this way. Like, let me be very kind of simple here, which is, I think the nature of the relationship between the artist and the collector is simplified in digital. I just don't think you need as many people. I don't think you need as much interference. You may not need any. But ultimately, I just think there's less requirements, so to speak. There's less physical requirements. There's less cost requirements. There's less, you don't need to distribution requirements in digital. A lot of this stuff is kind of streamlined. And it's almost like to a certain degree, and this is a far analogy, it's almost the difference between physical books and Kindle. Right? Like, you can still make the argument for physical books, and it's a distant analogy. But ultimately, isn't it great that I just think of a book and I can just download it? And same with digital art. Like, I don't need to go anywhere. Anyways, I'm getting far off topic here. Thank you for the comment, Evelyn. Good point. Absurdity, the impossible dream of keeping it short, indeed. And a really nice comment here from Absurdity. Gotta say, Twitter X may not be able to handle the length of your artist journal, but speaking for myself at least, your audience surely can. There's no other show on any platform that I'm willing to devote more than an hour to each week, let alone 3. Yet I can't wait to open YouTube whenever I see the notification that you've dropped another episode. So I'm thrilled to get this reaction because I was genuinely embarrassed at how long the last episode was. Thank you so much for featuring my collab with Corey Cheek, I think is how you pronounce it, which was a wonderful added surprise. You're correct in surmising I generated the base image using AI. And also Koryachik then converted it to video and added the glitch effects. Okay, excellent. As you have often stated, there's something about the AI aesthetic that seems to mesh well with glitch. And yeah, I think it might have been Zapata who was mentioning that these early, because it was kind of like the disrespected, AI in 2015, where you had like the GAN or whatever, Google Dream, remember that? It wasn't like the best looking. It was kind of like this nightmarish looking work. And so the glitch artists tended to incorporate it, I think, early on, because it was seen as this it's like visually it was already looked like a glitch out of the box, so to speak. Perhaps. My sense is that it is based on the natural ability of our brains to immediately sense and take note of the wrongness of an image. We're almost back to the visual information theory here. Both AI images, videos, and glitch effects take advantage of this immediate subconscious recognition. So this is interesting, and this wrongness, this off-kilteredness, but that's still beautiful, is almost where the poetry resides, I suppose, we could say. However, whereas wrongness in life is often met with a sense of distaste, in great glitch art, like some great ROMs or you name it, not saying any of my art would be in that category, the immediate recognition of wah is somehow converted into oh, or even a wow. I'm personally fascinated by this aesthetic alchemy, and although I can't tell you why some glitch effects are off-putting, whereas others are mesmerizingly gorgeous, I'd argue it's kind of back to just, simple beauty. Some are beautiful, and some are just like, well, that's not so great. I sure am enjoying and there's no reason behind it. It's just something, you can make all the reasons in the world as to why, okay, there's contrast. Actually, there usually is technical reasons why things tend to work and not. But sometimes it just works, right? I sure am enjoying all the incredible, despite all of this, I sure am enjoying all the incredible AI, more or less glitch art that this community is creating on a regular basis. Indeed. And there's the work by Ubzer Deity and Koryachik. So awesome to hear from you. Great comment. Interesting. Jan Lucas Migone broke the internet. Filippo Francocci, congrats on my way to YouTube. Kiro. So I love you guys. You're the best. Rinny Fish, awesome to hear from you. We have a work this episode by Rinny Fish. Our Milk, will the next episodes all not be available on Twitter? They will be, because they will be short enough, in theory. Eitzo, I'm surprised it took this long to break that. Indeed. Elon Musk, I was kind of hoping. I had this when I saw Elon Musk tag there, because of the duration of the video, I was like, oh, art for space. There's probably no better episode to get Elon Musk's attention here than art for space. So I thought that was great, that 369 tagged Elon there. W70, Wojak, great to hear from you. Little Cakes, great to hear from you. So hilarious. Quick look at the community. Ilya Bliznets, wow, look at this thing. Breakfast Before School, collaboration between, I was thinking it kind of looks like Don't Buy here, as you see, a little bit of audio. So I got to be careful here with the mic, and the last thing we want, so just some interesting audio there. And so, as you see here, so interesting collab here by Ilya Bliznets and Don't Buy. Don't Buy just had a big show that they put out earlier this month. Libra Block, really cool glitch piece here. Kind of what I really think is interesting here, among other things, is the vertical and the horizontal here. So cool abstract here. Load Reboot from Libra Block. Seendolf, interesting combination of what looks like writing and painting. New collage art, very interesting. Digital collage, very interesting area. Kind of almost underexplored area. Here's Zizo. A couple of aliens having a coffee. Nice work, Zizo. Nice painting. And also Gavin Shapiro, Make Way for Pesto. The chunkiest boy is now an object in an edition of 10. Feel free to offer whatever you want, and I will accept 10 offers. So here is a work from Gavin Shapiro. Cool penguin-looking penguin. Louis JPD. New artistic creation in Blender. This one is a series of 96 escalating PNGs of 2D string forms to create an abstract visual representation of legendary Queen guitarist Sir Brian May. Wow, a knight, interestingly. So interesting. So using a few different texts here, exporting, looks like a little bit of Blender. Interesting. It's interesting to use, these 3D things to get back to 2D. These 3D softwares. 369, grown, still naive. Beautiful. Nice animated abstract here. Golo, what we're here for, unfortunately, this is not showing up here in the feed, unfortunately, Golo, but feel free to put an image next time. Kendall Van Sant, a nice little drawing here of a bird in a cemetery with a bird cage. Cool work, Kendall. Thanks for posting. And Skulltex, we saw this, I believe. Oh, no, we didn't see this. Beautiful work here. Image derived from lino cut on wood that was hand-painted, scanned, and then sonified and data bent in Audacity. Interesting texture, isn't there? So using the physical world, scanning. It's really, like I always say here, we're just scratching the surface. Luke 500, I don't know why, but this piece makes me think of the recent H.P. Lovebucks interview on Post Americana. A 1964 Ed Russia going up to auction with an estimate of $50 million. Wasn't the market dead? Great article by Kelly Crow at the Wall Street Journal. $50 million. That seems super overpriced, doesn't it? I wonder if it's going to sell. I guess that's the estimate. We'll see what it goes for, but that is really expensive. Luke 500. A must-watch for all artists minting on Tezos. Yeah, so this is great. A 40-minute step-by-step video by Retro Manny on how to mint 100% on chain. And I thought we had a link too. Wasn't there just a link? Wasn't it Sigma Toad had put out where it's just like, it was like a form and it was just like, hey, do you want us to put this on object? I totally hope they do. But there's a video here. And so that can be found in the community as well. I've never done it. And the cost is, at first I thought it was really cheap. The cost came up here to mint on chain. And where is it? Here it is. Approximate cost 0.3 Tezos per kilobyte. So that would be, let's call it 20 cents. But right now, I thought it was super cheap at first, but Luke's was sort of said, not so cheap, because, you know, to mint on Bitcoin right now, it's 2 V-bytes, it's 50 cents. I put up a bunch of work on Bitcoin actually this weekend. It's 50 cents per kilobyte. So right now, the value, as you could say, on Bitcoin, but anyways, so it's not super cheap. It's about a third of a Tezos per kilobyte, interestingly. But if you're doing like works like this Microcosmos series by Cal Flemmer, the jars by Tornado, these little pixel artworks, you're not paying very much. You know, you're paying like less than $1. So, and the market loves it. YOT, GM everyone, so thank you for the illustration and painting. Texadelic, thank you for posting here. Kind of interesting digital and painting. And here is Area, thank you for posting. Cool digital artwork. Chamaland out of Buenos Aires. Good to see you, Chamaland. There's the mate that they love to drink there. And a cool, that looks like Chama, sitting off and looking into the digital sky there, the pixelated sky. Cool work on object. Here's Fatime, and I believe we saw this. And this is super interesting here. We're actually going to get a comment on this right away from Alain Survey from that article, I believe, or at least referring to something similar that Luke 500 was mentioning. Very interesting comment here. So Alain Survey, the art market needs a restoration project. The current decline of prices is due to changing market conditions. It is not a reflection of any given market. This is actually pretty hilarious, the headline. The contemporary art market poses one of the great chicken and egg questions in all of economics. The current decline of prices is due to changing market conditions. It's not the art. So it's just that art isn't as valuable as it used to be. The current decline of prices is due to, so this is Bloomberg. It's not a reflection on any given artist. I think that's hilarious that the need was even to put that in. That is an opinion. Alison Schrager, columnist. Art isn't as valuable as it used to be. Total sales of work by younger artists, also known as ultra-contemporary art. This is ArtNet that's pushing this term, I think. Has been declining recently. So I guess the next 20 years of our lives, we're going to be forced to deal with ultra-contemporary art. To keep the show on, to quote Burroughs, to keep this dying show on the road is what goes through my head. Lots of art is going to auction. The number of ultra-contemporary works offered and sold at auctions in New York, Hong Kong, London, and Paris has been rising. So more art on the market. And again, I would say the elephant in the room, to generalize, we've always mentioned, there's a lot of genius out there. But the elephant in the room is the content and the works themselves. And they did get probably overpriced, as we see from the Ed Russia. I mean, that's $50 million for that Ed Russia, and I like Ed Russia. It has a cool kind of Ballard work. I think Ballard knew Ed Russia, actually, or at least they met. Anyways, let's continue. You know what inspired one of the main inspirations for J.G. Ballard was the This Is Tomorrow exhibition, which was the first pop art exhibition in, I think, ever. I think it's credited with being, and it was in London. It was a major exhibition. I think it was at the Tate. I could be wrong about that. Maybe it was somewhere else. Can't remember. But he went to that, and I'm not sure what year that was. But for him, that was a major turning point. Continuing on. Painting is dead. Long live painting. I didn't want to focus on this too much, but there's a new article in the New York Times. A show at the Museum of Contemporary Art, Chicago, challenges the time-worn critics' contention that painting is dead, expanding the idea of what painting can be. And then they have a Petra Courtwright, who was part of the kind of post-internet crowd, for those that don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, featuring both paintings. So this is at the MoCA, Chicago, featuring both paintings made the traditional way and works made using media and other technology, including the works of no other than Petra Courtwright. Quote, the show looks at how computers, the internet, cameras, including video and photography, and automation have influenced the production and reception of painting. Right. As I kind of long have said here, the way that painting remains new is by incorporating the visual technological evolution into painting. So you bring in digital, vocabulary, for lack of a better term, but digital references, so to speak. In my case, I would say the perfectly square circle, for example, of the pencil tool, the magic wand, stuff that you can't get out of painting, and then painting kind of gets reinvigorated. And I suspect that's probably what this show is referring to. There's a paywall on that one, so I never read it. Artie Hans, listening to highbrow explanations of not so great art is so exhausting, and this is why I'm sometimes hard on contemporary art, because I have wasted a huge amount of time going to talks in Berlin. And I'm not saying all of them. Some of them are great, but 80% have been terrible. And you are wasting your time from a intellectual point of view. And it's like, and to Artie Hans' point, listening to highbrow explanations is usually someone's ego problem that you're dealing with. Unfortunately, or someone's baggage, and not to be too strong, but on it. But that I sympathize and empathize with Artie Hans there. Vinnie Hager. The end goal is to create a lifelong body of artwork that you're proud of. This is, I think, one of the goals. Of course, I think there may be other goals at work, though, depending on what kind of art you're doing. And I would say I'd refer people to the HP Lovebucks Twitter space that we did last week, because I make the case in there, and I don't think I'm the first person to argue this. I think if you look at Burroughs, I think if you look at Ballard, I think if you look at the Surrealists, there is also kind of a social dimension. You could even argue the Marquis de Sade, right? This whole tradition I keep bringing up here. There is a social dimension. I would argue it's not political. It can be reduced to left-right terms, but I'd argue it's political on a kind of a meta level. It's meta-politics. And it's taking the images, especially in a corporate world, that are being brought to us, reconfiguring them and kind of representing them is another kind of function, one could argue, that the arts has. It kind of plays you could argue it can be a critique. One could say a visual critique of the world we live in, and whatever power is being kind of what people, unfortunately, the older you get, the more you realize there is kind of power is trying to implement ways of thinking on people. So I think there is a response that is possible from the people, so to speak, that is art-based, that kind of reconfigures and comments and, So all to say, but I thought it was an interesting comment, which is why I highlighted it here. Shout out to Vinny. Mike Bespalov. I thought this was really interesting. So just a prominent, I think, AI account. But this is not AI. Just crafted what might be the smoothest delete effect ever using pure SVG filters. So the power of SVG, I just wanted to highlight here. It's pretty impressive, SVG. I think it's worth exploration, and it's tiny, back to our Art for Space on-chain discussion. So pretty interesting how powerful it is. I think it's mathematical. I think it's vector, mathematical. But, more on that later. Mario Klingeman. I do not endorse any meme coins created in my name or which steal my art. I know there is nothing I can do against it, and this tweet probably even has a Streisand effect. But don't come crying or complaining if you get rugged by these scammers. So you saw a couple, I think Mech also mentioned this. There are people that are creating, these visual meme coins, so to speak, that are taken from artists and then just kind of posting them. So it just kind of, it's, yeah. We have an interesting post here by Pixel Lord, which kind of takes another side on this, though. What if instead of NFTs, we can just drop new art as tokens, and then whatever happens is free market? Basically, a tokenized art is liquid editions of NFT. And there is, put it this way, there is something to be said for this. In the sense of, remember this fractionalization thing? Like, that was almost one of the earlier ways of, and I think you can even buy like a Picasso out there somewhere, which is fractionalized, and it's like, oh, and then there are, 100 different owners. I'm not sure on the so-called I'm skeptical on governance, on-chain governance. I think in general, it's been shown in real terms not to work, I dare say. And so if you have the majority, I guess maybe that's just what it is. It's like, okay, instead of there being one token for one art piece, you could have 1,000 tokens and say, okay, but do you own the art? Like, it does change the effect. You own so it changes the ownership, and then can, I guess in theory, anybody, it's like putting an edition. It's kind of like an edition. So it is interesting in that respect. Let's continue. Interesting comment. Hen Collector. In reference to heck, Joshua Sobel, it's been my ethos that the chain and associated platforms that have been the least barrier to entry and ease of use discovery will be where all the true artists and art collectors end up in the end. To me, that remains Tezos. Nothing has shifted there. Tezos' performance is irrelevant to that. I don't really care on token price fluctuations because I believe art is ultimately not going to be valued based on what chain it is on, but on the quality of the work and who the artist is. I suspect this is how we're not even going to know. Or it's like you're going to have to look at the metadata, be like, oh, it was minted on ETH 20 years ago, right? I kind of agree. Keep it simple, collect on the platform that is easiest and is not connected to or run by VCs or crypto bros. Collect art on an ecosystem founded and run by artists and art collectors, a community that aligns with your values, and I believe you can't go wrong. Keep my world super simple and focused on what I do, and indeed, the simplicity of Tezos is an arguably objects platform. There is something to be said for that. Because as soon as, I haven't even gone to highlight XYZ. Maybe I went once, when it first started happening. But it sounded so complicated. I just don't, I would rather just kind of focus on, is there a new work by The Myth? What does that mean? Let me see that and look at it compared to this. Is it a new series? That's what I want to think about, not where am I on the leaderboard? And, which, shape? Is this going to be around? And, everything is all going to change? And am I just throwing my money away here? Or what is this? So I think, but maybe there's something to be said. Sonso, I'm not saying people need to collect art on every chain. It is, of course, your choice as a collector. But if you claim to be an appreciator of art and you are unwilling to highlight great work because of where it was minted, then I have some questions about your actual interest in art. Yeah, excellent point. I agree. And here, this is Neurocolor, Epiphenomena, Handmade Collage. Nice physical. And I think things may be out of order a little bit here. Yeah, so this was going to be later. But I had to highlight this because I like to show physical works here from digital, right? Or at least by digital artists making physical. I got to say that frame is awesome. And I'm really impressed with the paper. This is a nice handmade collage 2020. What I kind of like too is it fits in. It kind of fits with Neurocolor's vibe, right, of the work. Very interesting. Subject, which is Mech, and I think, was it John? A new platform for viewing your art. I still need to try this out. With Subject, long the days of missing your favorite creators' works. No more frantically checking a whole bunch of apps. It's not missing any drops and new releases in Tezos. Simple, no fluffs. I do like the visual first. It's kind of like visual notifications, which if, Object could, if there's anything that needs upgraded, it's the notifications on Object. This is pretty nice. So just kind of interesting. So continuing on, Element Lee, scroll on the foundation of drawing. And this is, look at this. I mean, Element Lee is doing a lot of radical moves here. And here it has 3 versions of the sync. And look at how it's being printed and then presented this way and saying, see, on a scroll, on the foundation of drawing, like provocative title, very nice work from Element Lee. And here are the works. And really interesting pixelation here. We're kind of back, like, look at where we got this we're kind of back to the visual information theory here. As we see with these pixels that are not perfect. We're kind of like, we took another route here through physical expression or through physical rendering. You also get a distortion in the pixels here with maybe the ink bleeding, depending on the paper. Super interesting. And let me just quickly, this is not, I thought I'd do a hard hour cutoff here. That's going to be impossible, of course. So I struggle to shorten this show, but as you can see why, I hope. Victor Arce, a prototype for the board game I'm making. It's just a very fun user interface, visual interface. The game board, this kind of looks like Settlers of Catan. Very interesting, Victor. I had to show this, Nicholas Sassoon, new RGB studies, so I finally clicked the link to Nicholas Sassoon's website. Look at how awesome these look when you see them up close like this. Like, it's a completely different experience, and you actually see every little pixel here. Pretty spectacular. So I just wanted to highlight that because we've seen so many on Twitter. Bit by bit, installing 1990 Autodesk Animator Pro. So some of the background work that goes into installing some of these softwares, impressive. Some of these retro, vintage softwares. Hermipe pixel art, look at this. So here's some sort of Japanese motorbike with a Hermipe pixel on the side. But look, it's a screen. It's not even a rectangle. But actually it is. And then the image, that is like something I've never seen before. Do you see what's going on here? You have what looks like a screen, and the animation is only, I don't know if you can see that, but the animation is only in this rectangle. But then Hermipe, the innovator that they are, paints on top of the screen this work here, this in white, and then goes off of the screen. This is quite something, and well worth our attention and time here. Very, very wild, frankly, and it looks like there's a few, I think, or at least one. As you see here, the screen stopping, radical pixel artist out of Japan. Ande Collard, here's a robot doing some art here. And I just want to show, and kind of like, again, novel ways of mark making, new ways of mark making. These paint plotters, especially machine painting. Very cool. So just wanted to highlight that, and let's continue. Here is Ezra Eslin, who of course I follow. I Need Your Help 2024. Interesting physical. Kind of looks pretty good, doesn't it? So super interesting there. And here is also Turo, Moda MT, who of course I follow. I bought a new sketchbook and making a cool little painting, I think, in the sketchbook. I believe that's a painting. So look at how tiny that is too. How carefully you'd have to do all that. Super interesting. And here is Martin Bruce, who of course I follow. So does 2x2 meters. This is huge. 2024. So huge artwork. And look at that cloud. As I always say with Martin Bruce, he thinks with his eyes. Just a spectacular artist. Here is Yuri J. as we get into the works here. Touching grass. So here you see some grass. So Yuri J in action. I guess it's a work in progress, because then we got this one. And as you see, it looks like a similar structure, doesn't it? You see the house here, but then some dragging, and you see some of the process that goes through Yuri J's work here. And then you see these gorgeous textures, right? These imperfect brush strokes here, that have this edge and everything. So here, things getting kind of dragged along the side and everything. Very nice work from Yuri J. Here's an interesting piece by Hasdrubal Waffle. I don't know if this was on Rodeo. I didn't check Rodeo today in the interests of time. Pretty cool work, though. Love this kind of, animation in the back, and then this staticness. There's a great contrast is going on here. as well as the spray paint over top of the pixels. Kind of looks like, reminds me of 2001, with all of the apes kind of collecting near the big black monolith. Not sure what the reference is here. Maybe it's probably something completely different. Pretty interesting. Here is Swozo. Let the trees or emerge with yours. So more gorgeousness from Swozo. There you see, I mean, and I just never get tired of this. There's so much to feast on there. Nov 1914, who will be on this week's Spaces, check this out, a Toreador, seemingly a bull and a Toreador getting killed. Interestingly, La Cornada, after Botero, very popular artist, beautiful piece. Love the, I was going to say the necklace, but that is a vest, the edge of the vest. Beautifully done here. That's an edition of 11, still available. Only 2 picked up so far. Here's another one from Nov 1914, The Distance that is not lost or something like that. So another work. Interesting format going back to, and again, playing with these kind of lower resolutions, last few works. Interestingly, but here high resolution. Edgy work as usual from Nov 1914. Can't wait to talk to them. So edition of 5 for 13 Tezos each. And here Perrault 8. So another, I think, dog. And in this series here, playing with these other brushes. And you see here classic, just kind of, and they're classic. So cool work here. Edition of 10 from Nov 1914, just listed. Here's RJ, Franz. So this is a AI and pixel painting collage GIF portrait of Franz Kafka, 1400 by 1400. So not tiny, interestingly. I love how the GIFs expand in object. It's really great. So interesting portrait of Franz Kafka, really nice color here and everything. So based on an AI work, and this is sold out at 40 Tezos each for an edition of 5. So nice work from RJ. Here's Scamra. Again, using AI, that dress you used to wear. So again, it's like you could put these guys, or these people, in the same room. And so another beautiful textured digital artwork based on AI from Scamra. And here is Enigmatrix, Ace of Spades, Three of Clubs. So look at this. Interesting, again, we're seeing here on the edges, kind of like these layers on top of each other, getting some pretty, embracing these sort of like glitchery, really, or these kind of heavy aesthetics of, these, what that layer styles can create. And then you get just on top, big, like some mathematical, characters. Very interesting piece here pieces from Enigmatrix. Here is Uxine. Interesting followers here. So again, kind of a sketchbook, kind of having a bit of a sketchbook composition, a little bit thing here, some stuff here. Here's some horses, right? Just posted on X. And of course I follow Uxine. Some more super interesting witty works from Dan Control, composition PSTK, not sure, LPSTK, not sure what that means. Looking pretty rad. While, contemporary art is, going wild over the Tom Wesselman show, I'm kind of looking at the Dan Control show here online. Fresh and witty and fun and just interesting. Here's composition Phone Call. Great color and some old Nokia phones. And just interesting use of repetition and just making a work out of thin air, seemingly. Mishiyasu, Compact Sky. So more experimentation here, as we see. And look at these great colors that come into this very challenging kind of work. It's a 1 of 1. It is 17 Tezos, $10.82. That is on Tezos. Here is Sol's. Paired de Flores, maybe. And so this is a 1 of 1. Another kind of edgy artist here. As you accumulate for the museum in your mind, interesting piece. How much is this? Not listed. Here's another rad work. These could all go in the same room, couldn't they? Baller. This is Juana Pedro. A super interesting abstract artist, very recognizable style and interesting piece here. Great colors, just a cool abstract. One sold so far at 10 Tezos, edition of 13. And here's Luciana Guerra, Me and the Creatures. So interesting. I believe this is a digital painting. Sure looks that way from the color. It'd be the color scheme that was the biggest reason why I would think this is digital. Anyway, beautiful work here from Luciana Guerra. Here's Lorna Mills, which is a pretty rad, again, embracing the JPEG artifacts here, I believe, unless that's just Instagram rendering it this way. Pretty cool one. And I love the color here of this mouth talking and mast. There, Walk, and this is sold, and let's just see what Walk did. Only 2 Tezos you can get a Walk for these days if you're lucky. And here, I'm not sure what the subject matter is, but you see all the noise up close and personal. Good times from Walk, edition of 1, and selling for a steal there. Here is Flora Marquez with some drawings. Well, I'd say digital drawing paintings. Let me take you through some of them here. So I believe this is on Surreal app, and so playing with black and white subject with painting in the background. Interesting contrast. And yeah, this is on Surreal app. And I guess 4 minted is how you'd see it here. And yeah, so cool work from Flor Marquez out of Argentina. Mr. M, the Myth, out of Buenos Aires, who we saw at the start of the show with a new work on Super Rare, putting out a ton of work on fire. So keeping it interesting here and unpredictable. So a myth figure with maybe a wrestler hat, the lemon head perhaps, and holding a gun, and interesting work by the Myth. This is on Super Rare, cool title, Mr. M. The Myth is awakening. The war is spiritual, and it's about to begin. So here it comes, October 28th, minted. Here's on Zora with a new work, and 28 minted so far. And they're just another one of these, I guess you'd call it like, it's almost like a PFP project, or whatever it is. Another masked figure here, beautiful with camouflage, done in Myth's like unmistakable style. Here is, I think, Cesar is the name on Object, and here a work, as you see the Tezos logo tattooed on the face there, and so cool work, cool digital painting on Instagram. Here is Rennie Fish. Let's get this with a new work. We'll look at the title in a second, just get the audio. So cool new work from Rennie Fish. Again, these kind of translucent pastels and psychedelic pastels, almost like a placenta here of sorts. Very cool and fun work. Daytime Rave, love it. October 24th, a new one from Rennie Fish, and that sold out at 15 Tezos. Nice work. Edition of 10. And here is, let me make this normal size. Here is Quampa with some works. Color composition study in MS Paint. And let me get that. Here we go. So let me just make that bigger here quickly, just so you get a clue as to what's going on. Looking like playing with kind of some different techniques here, perhaps. Adding a little bit of the sampled brush and everything. So kind of a busy one, but it's pretty rad, isn't it? So Quampa, and let's just look at the other works here. So this is, I think, going up closer. It is. So a really kind of cool, busy digital artwork, digital painting by Quampa. I believe out of Indonesia, if I'm not mistaken. Weissman Goldminovich. The Failed Artist 98 self-portrait, Failed Artist trading card. Would you like fries with that? So there's the Failed Artist now with a making fries and a McDonald's cast and a hot dog in their hand, not a hamburger. And some little bit of dubious graffiti there in the background. Nice contrast, I might add, though. Nice move. Like, nice contrast. So cool. I love it's almost like those old Honus Wagner, like the old, like 19-teens trading cards. The only Failed Artist trading card in existence. Very rare, edition of 1, and sold for 8 Tezos at auction. Pretty. This is by Katerina Create. So cool illustration here. Got some mushrooms and some clouds, and a nice big heart here with the Katerina Create figure. Imagine, edition of 1 for 35 Tezos, just minted. And here is Andre Summer Blues, who of course I follow, work in progress. Cool kind of psychedelic artwork here before the color comes in, I assume. But we shall see. And here is Daniel W. continuing with a super interesting color scheme here, as above, so below. And this is 3 Tezos 20 cents, edition of 40. So cool work here from Daniel W. out of Brazil. There's almost like the tree, was it the tree of life? Super cool there. Here's Dylan, fingerprint, digital drawing. So pretty interesting piece here. As you get up close, you can tell, you start to be able to tell that, oh, this is probably physical. From a distance, digital. From a distance, it almost looks physical, especially with this stuff underneath, right? So a cool simulation here. It looks pretty good, doesn't it? You could take this top layers here, and you could actually probably make a physical print out of that. Pretty cool, and a fingerprint made out of these people. Holding hands, pretty interesting. Astra number 773Z, edition of 4. So a cool pixel art abstract here. And that is from R. Presti, edition of 4. As we run through this show, bite by bit, PIS. And so not sure what the title is there, but pretty interesting. Another interesting digital painting here using Graphics 2. Just minted there. That is an edition of 1. And here, I think Sabato retweeted this one, Koneko Nayo. I thought this was pretty cool. Just interesting, different kind of pixel art here. Almost like wallpaper kind of design, almost like video game design, but deviating, right? Like with the background, like it's a little artier than a video game. I thought really interesting. Here's a beautiful piece posted by Mech. I don't know if it's new or not, or if it's new colors on an older work, but I thought it looked great. Love the color scheme. This orange and violet. Her hardest hue to hold. So also referencing the colors. So cool work here. And then interesting frame here in this other work posted by Mech. Cool pixel art work here. Gallant Morning. Here's Kristen Roos, Color Bar City number 3. So another city by Kristen Roos, number 3. And this, I think, is still available. 35 Tezos, edition of 15. And how many are left here? 3 left. And yes, I think one of these older ones went for a few hundred Tezos. Maybe that's why Kristen Roos is making more. They're popular. They're pretty cool. Yuri J with 4 extra J's. I thought these are gorgeous. This octopus by Yuri J, color is like off the charts beautiful. Not easy to make this interesting of an artwork with 8x8. It is doable. That is gorgeous. This is not cheap. It is not cheap, though. 369 Tezos for this 8-bit by 8-bit work. So Yuri J recognizing that's a special one, of course. Here, Octopus number 60, Oct 60, 69 Tezos. But it's still a very, very nice work here. These octopi. Some people, I was just told octopi is wrong. I always learned that it was right, but you see how this one just jumps out at you. These others are pretty cool, and you gotta love the humor here too. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Let's continue. Edgy work, referring, I believe, to Goya 1810 to 1815. I didn't bring up the original. I almost don't want to leave it on too long, but it was actually a pretty cool little work here. But yeah, unfortunately, all too close to reality of war, which is just the story, the history of humanity. The more you look at history, it's just the history of wars. There's a reason for that, because that's kind of basically all that they did, seemingly. That's why art, this art thing is a great thing to happen and that people actually care about it. Anyway, cool work there. Let me just look at the artist here, bring the artist name, Enter, on Super Rare. List price of 0.2, $500. Here's another one by Enter, Nothing Until April, pixel art version of the painting by Ed Ruscha. So Ed Ruscha with another appearance here. So playing off of Ed Ruscha's trope here, putting the text on top of the landscape, Paint Nothing Until April, even kind of a pop message there. And here is Anis Abdin with a pretty cool pixel artwork. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Let's do this. And so nice work here. And day 300. Going on the final track here. And there's a still version. Entering the final stretch for Anis Abdin and putting out a work every day for a year. The ASCII portrait of the 80s role model. So, of course, He-Man, this is by that pinball guy. And here we see some ASCII kind of mixed in with some pixelation. Interesting layering of different exports, I believe. And nice color. And fun subject, by the way. Masters of the Universe, He-Man. So 80s. And that's sold to uncurated for 10 Tezos. And really smart in the sense that you could tell it was an image of a screen. It was like a photo of a screen, another layer, very interestingly. Here's Hermipe pixel art with a cool just animation here. It's a little fuzzed out, unfortunately. Let's see what it says here. GIF animation. After a long time, I did a GIF anime job. So playing with animation a little bit, Hermipe, very interesting. Artist there, let's continue. This is on Zora, and this is Blasov with a cool spider being done with what looks like ASCII or something, and then using this interesting notepad operating system window as a framing device, which is pretty cool. 42 minted. And here, this was posted by Acid Boy, Bubble Mirror. And pretty cool. Like, I don't know if you'd call this generative art or painting art, but interesting visual experience that we're having here. So pretty cool over there. Ed Creative Coder. And here's Acid Boy, GM Fam. So I think I've seen this before, this loop, but not with these colors. And I kind of loved how it scrolled almost or cycled through different kind of colors of the rainbow. Quite powerful, with the ring in the middle doing its own kind of visual dance. So super interesting work from Acid Boy. Perfect Loop.tez control panel. So more operating system, this time a Mac, as subject matter and as really as paintbrush to a certain degree. Cool title there, control panels. Here's John, Windows Still Life number 121. Seeming to go with another Halloween theme, and here, but more of a purple and black on this one. Interesting keeping these kind of almost ASCII dots, but I'm not sure what they are. Dots on top of the window here, and there you see what looks like a cemetery, but with the projector from the party, from the Halloween party. Pretty hilarious. Edition of 25, and taking offers 130 Tezos, 138. So it definitely has their collectors there on Tezos. Kyle Flemmer, this is an edition of 1, Keep Building. So another nice piece here, highly textured work by Kyle Flemmer. Look at that. And happy birthday to Kyle Flemmer. I saw the post there. Super cool. 192 by 192 in his 30s. I think 36. Good work. 50 Tezos and selling. Here is Ex Mortal Mirage, so more analog video glitch, another landscape. This one, really cool separation here between the hill and the background and the sky, I should say. You see that noise, and then just beautiful, kind of almost like layered glitches here. Edition of 15, selling out at 17 Tezos, so just awesome. Here's Kiro with a work called Workshop, another video painting, as I love to call them here. Foundation is where it is minted on base. We'll see if it shows up, and there it is. So another cool work, and often these are taken, I think, from AI works that we're kind of back to this, prototype or type, using AI as the kind of starting ground to get novel compositions and then doing your thing, interestingly, over top. In a sense, that's what I did with the Bacchus in my work. I'll show it very quickly. First, let's look at Gino with another cool video work here. This is analog video glitch. Interesting, different kind of glitch. And I kind of love how the bottom part is just edgily, kind of overtaken by the glitch there. There's an edition of 10 for 12 Tezos. And there is one on secondary. So sold out. And let me see if I can bring up that work, just to the point here. Oh no, it was, where is that work? There's a work very quickly called Bacchanal, and is it this old? Here it is. So it's interesting. So this is interesting because this is taken from AI as the source. So you see the kind of like, okay, and I made a million renders instead of just putting that render and going, okay, I didn't love I loved the composition. And I was like, okay, what do I do with this? So here, then I do my thing on top of it, right? Do my little pixel art thing, So Isn't it interesting? Again, using AI as kind of like your compositional tool, so to speak. You're kind of a starting ground. It doesn't need to be the starting ground, but it's an interesting way of approaching it. I'm sure physical painters are also doing this, right? Composition 373. So this is Klaus with a new work here. Very nice, textured, beautiful addition to this series. Composition 373. It's called Geometrically the Series. That is 23 Tezos, still available. Here's Renki, called No. So a new animated abstract here from the super edgy Renki. And I keep hearing every so often I'll see a comment on an old video, and all of a sudden Renki also comments. Shout out to Renki with a nice comment, I think this weekend. Here's Ile with a beautiful series, Serendipity. Look at this. I came pretty, this could have started the show. This is a pretty nice composition here. Beautiful work from Ile. It is sold out. If you think it could be serious, ask me to call emergency services or someone. Cancel. Do not call emergency. So that's my phone that has taken a life of its own here. Wanted to call emergency services. I don't know how they got to that point from what I was saying. Anyways, look at this. I was talking about how beautiful this artwork was. And as you see, stunning AI artwork here. Love the background. It's just really nice painting. Edition of 5 and selling out. How much did this sell for? $222. AI Vanitas. Here's another Serendipity number 4. So some very nice AI paintings from Ile. And we have another number 1. So just picking a few, but all a very nice series here from Ile. Let's continue. Here's Venta. Look at this. Some more kind of variations on AI in the process. Digital painting and AI versions. Collect one to be airdropped the other. 6 editions for 5 Tezos, link below. So here is the AI version, Date Night AI. And it's super interesting what Venta's doing here. And I love the subject matter of Date Night. Nice modern kind of subject matter and, sharing a wine. And then that is based on this painting here. Here's a digital painting, right? So instead of starting from the AI, in a sense, Venta is reversing the situation and saying, I'm going to start from a painting, and then I'm going to add AI processing on top rather than putting my AI composition and then putting my digital processing on top. So it gets pretty wild, doesn't it? Date Night. So 5 Tezos, edition of 6, very interesting concept. Here's Time, the artist formerly known as Santiago, with a beautiful textured work. This is why I love you. Beautiful textures here. I don't think we saw this one. Loved the lines and everything. Loved the color. Very nice. And here's another one by Santiago. You can almost recognize the reference here and then just completely, arted out. GM. Very nice piece here. Great color. Here's RJ, the fairies, and here kind of an AI video with some dithering. Interesting piece here. This is an edition of 1, or that was burned. So that was 400 Tezos. Time, this is by Time. I thought this is Kanek Zapata. That's funny. Because you know why? Because of the rainbow colors. But this is Time, so which is also Santiago. D, the letter D. So also collecting. Cool. No Twitter account. I want to tag them on Twitter because they bought the piece that I sold there. So interesting. Good to see D, the letter D. Again, as we have another mysterious wallet to understand. So beautiful work. More interesting AI. And here's No Hygiene. 8X. This almost looks like a Roman, what do you call it, sepulcher? If I'm pronouncing that right. But who knows what it is. And look at this edge. It's almost like a drawn edge of this wild work with this angel kind of put on each side. Wild. As we go into the physical, Moto 583 with a beautiful lava lamp with legs here. Here's another one, Austin Ansbro, Charlie Brown, and Snoopy. Beautiful. Super interesting. Fun. Cool. Let's continue. Here is Ochiai Shohei, who we were starting with the other day with another distorted work. Awesome hat. Just a rad artist here. And there's the hat. So a lot of these Japanese artists having pretty cool kind of commercial opportunities, interestingly. Here's Bobichi Matiha with a different kind of work here, kind of more horizontal rather than vertical, and almost playing with a princess motif. Apocalyptic Rider 2024, oil and acrylic. And here is Davor Gromilovic, an artist I don't think I've seen before. An interesting kind of, I think it's graphite and colored pencils, and just a little bit of colored pencil in there. Super interesting, just a little bit of green, seemingly. Very interesting, kind of a Halloween-esque work here. Kind of reminds me of Zap Comics a little bit from the 1960s. And here is Bondoso Bandido with another really cool work. Almost looks like crayon there, but hard to tell. Hell is fun. And these, is that crayon too? Maybe we'll see. So it looks like mixed media, doesn't it? Just the ever prolific Bondoso Bandido. So very, yeah, it looks like crayon mixed with paint. Super interesting, nice effect. And here is Saikudini, acrylic on canvas to the limit. Interesting painting here. Kind of looks like airbrush. And here, Noah Verrier, my oil painting of chicken tenders. So again, see, H.P. Lovebucks would categorize this work here as post-Americana. So again, kind of this very modern still life. And here's Jeremy Miranda, Split. So interesting, doing a motorway here. I couldn't tell if this was physical or digital. It kind of looks like either. I just don't know, which I find kind of interesting in itself. And that is your show, my friends. At least it's 15 minutes, actually more, 25 minutes shorter than last show, but still way too long. I am working on it. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, take care.